part 1 of my German restaurant, you saw me use hot glue to assemble a building made of foam core, cardboard, XPS insulation, mat board, and wooden sticks. Its size was dictated by where I'd like to place it on my O-scale Lionel layout, which is fairly small. So the footprint is also small, but I did manage to make it 4 stories high. When real estate is limited, buildings tend to go upwards. Today I'm going to paint it, add some decals, plus an awning and railing for the second floor dining area. The stucco on my building is replicated with joint compound, but why make a German restaurant at all when the trains I run are purely American? Well, this is why. This is the Hofbrauhaus in Munich, and it's a great place for sausages and pretzels. Well, and beer too, I guess. If I were to try and recreate the original in full 1/48th scale, I think the model would end up being at least 4 feet wide and maybe 3 feet deep. Fortunately, though, the Hofbrauhaus restaurants can be franchised, so I'm opening up a small branch in my basement. To make the foam core, XPS insulation, and the mat board a little more durable, I coated everything with a layer of flat finish Mod Podge. And then I followed that with a healthy dose of black acrylic craft paint. Cheap craft paints from Walmart, 58 cents a bottle, are also what I'll be using for the rest of the colors too. The base colors are mostly finished. Everything looks nice and brand new, but sometimes a building with a history, one that shows some wear, well, those can be much more visually interesting. This is the same burnt umber that I used on the trim, but I've thinned it down with water to form a brown wash that will settle into the cracks between the orange shingles. To bring back some of the orange, I'll dry brush the original color over the wash after it's dried. When I start thinking about the painting process, I realized that there can be a lot of layers before you achieve the final look that you want. With this building, I started with the Mod Podge, then the black, followed by the base colors. Add another 2 layers for the washes and the dry brushing. You can even do a wash over the dry brushing. But with this model, I'm going to include a layer between the base color and the washes or dry brushing. A layer of decals. It's pretty easy to find vintage posters online, and there are quite a few with German or Austrian themes. I printed an assortment onto inkjet decal paper and then sealed them with a flat clear coat spray. After drying, these inkjet decals can be applied pretty much just like any other decal. They will adhere better to a glossy surface, so I sprayed a shiny clear coat onto the areas that get signs or posters. I had a lot of trouble with this large decal. This is my 3rd printing and my 3rd attempt. I realized that laying down a diluted coat of Mod Podge would really help the decal to both adhere and conform to the uneven surface of the stucco wall. I'm finally satisfied with the way it turned out. A lot of buildings feature large hand-painted murals, and in my mind, that's what this is. And then came time for the windows. There are several other builders that I've watched. Most now use 3D printed windows. Some still build windows from balsa wood, but until I hear about an affordable and reliable 3D printer, I'm going to just keep making mine from styrene plastic. Making 11 windows and a French door this way may seem tedious, but with some good music in the background, the time goes by pretty quickly. I get into a bit of a relaxed groove and just enjoy the process. I've used this style of window in several other buildings that I've made before, but I may have to come up with a different design for the next one. These look good, but it would be nice to have something slightly different. These will be installed later. One or two will fit snugly when pushed into the window opening from the outside, but others will be in areas with interior lighting. For those, I'll cut the clear plastic to extend beyond the window and then paint the overlapping part flat black. This way, no light will seep out from between the window and the window frame, and then these will be installed from behind, from within the building. Momentum or enthusiasm for a build can be easily lost if it's not clear to see how the parts should go together. I struggled with this awning. Should it be covered in orange tile like the roof? In reality, I think that would have been too heavy for the deck to support. So then I started thinking about some sort of fabric, like a sagging canvas sort of look. In the end, I settled on something more solid looking, but with stripes whose color choices come from Munich's flag. Well, it doesn't look new anymore, that's for sure. The backstory that I've created in my mind involves this restaurant making it through the war years, relatively unscathed, but the resources were unavailable to maintain it properly. So maybe the time frame here is late 1945 or somewhere in that general area. In hindsight, I wish I had used the blue and white diamond pattern of Munich's flag on the awning. But I was feeling a little lazy, so I took the easier route with stripes. I still like it, but the diamonds would have looked so much better. There's another element to this build that I was putting off, the railing. I eventually made a little jig of wooden strips to ensure that all of the posts would be the same height. They are all just a tiny fraction taller than the distance between the deck and the awning. That extra height will create just enough tension to hold the railing assembly in place without gluing. Working with dimensional plastic strips made assembly fairly quick and painless. The solvent cement basically fuses the pieces together, and the result is something pretty solid and strong. I bought this hot wire foam cutting table on Amazon. This attachment lets you cut circles or cones. It's not the most precise tool because I bought the cheapest one they had, and I'm not very experienced with it yet either. It took quite a few failed attempts, but eventually I was able to make this, and with some paint, it'll be good enough. This is about as far as I'll go for now. I thought I could finish this in 2 episodes, but there will eventually be a third. I'd like to add gutters and downspouts. There's still interior lighting to install, plus 2 Hofbrauhaus signs, a vertical one on the turret and another that will be internally lit. I thought it would be done by now, but it's the project that just keeps on giving. So until next time, this has been Bob's Workshop. Take care.